Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So let's get on to solving multiple choice questions for prelims 2020 and question number 1. With reference to credit rationing, which of the following statements is correct? तो credit rationing का अगर हमें मतलब पता है तो फिर बहुत ही आसान क्वेश्चन है. So let's see the options now. Number 1, it is a situation in which banks lend credit to borrowers at a subsidized interest rate. Alright. Second is, it is a situation in which banks deny credit to borrowers even if the borrowers are willing to pay higher interest rate. Alright. C is, it is a situation in which banks lend credit only to the priority sector areas. And the last is, it is a situation in which banks lend credit to only the non-priority sector areas for faster economic development. So, which of these options are correctly describing the credit rationing? Do read them once again and try to come up with the right answer. And let's see the answer now. So, credit means to offer loan and rationing means to limit the amount of that very loan. So, based on this, the most plausible option here is B, that it is a situation in which the banks deny credit to borrowers even if they are willing to pay higher interest rate. And why would a bank be doing this? Because we know in the economy the absolute value of money to be available for lending purposes is limited. So banks need to decide which sector is to be given how much of loan, and who's gonna decide this? Reserve Bank of India or the central bank's gonna decide this. So based on the guidelines of central bank, if there is limited availability of credit in the economy, so central bank's gonna impose the credit rationing measures. So once you have given that much of loan to that particular sector, then even if borrowers are asking you for more funds, banks cannot give them the credit. So that's why bank would be needing to deny credit to borrowers even if the borrowers are willing to pay higher interest rates. So that's it. Now credit rationing in general in normal books is not something that's been described in this very manner, but herein we are supposed to know the crux of the entire term so that even if question is asked in a slightly different format, we are able to answer. So that's it. Among all these options, B is the most plausible one. So we have gotten our answer, and either way we have understood the meaning. So let's get on to the next question, and if you haven't understood it, then do let me know in the comment section. I'll explain it once again. So let's get on to question number 2. It says, which of the following can be considered as the causes of deflationary gap in an economy? So deflationary gap हमें पता होना चाहिए क्या है. Then this question is really simple. So what are these? Number 1, fall in consumer spending. Second is fall in investment. Third is production is more than demand. And so what is the right answer? It's 2 and 3 only, 1 and 3 only, 2 only, and all of these. So again, try to read this question on your own and try to come up with the right answer, and either way let's see the answer now. So what is deflationary gap? So we can understand deflationary gap with the help of an example. Let's say in the economy, if everybody is to be employed, let's say 100 people, they are getting employed at that very moment, aggregate demand is of 100 units of goods and supply is again 100 unit of goods, and where 100 becomes equal to 100, that is aggregate demand becomes equal to aggregate supply, all the 100 people are getting the job. This is the condition of full employment in the economy, a perfect situation. But we know in real economy this is not how things go. So let's say in reality the aggregate demand is just of 80 units. Now if demand is 80, then supply follows demand, so 80 rupee would be supplied in the economy, and demand is again 80, the equilibrium will be at 80 units, and in this very manner not everybody who is willing to work will be getting the job, right? So we are not at the full employment level in the economy. So now this gap between 80 units and the full employment level of aggregate demand, that is 100 units, is what we call as deflationary gap. This was just a crude explanation so that if a question comes onto deflationary gap, then also you people would be able to solve that. So if deflationary gap is there in the economy, so what can be the possible causes behind happening of deflationary gap? So definitely abhi aggregate demand kam hai, this is why deflationary gap is there. So definitely aggregate demand means there is fall in consumer spending, because demand comprises of consumption demand by people, that simply means consumer spending. Demand comprises of investment demand, that simply means a fall in investment. And further, third point is production is more than the demand. So it simply means supply is more than the demand, or it simply means demand is less than the supply. And this is what basically we mean by deflationary gap. So that's it. So all these 3 points are correct. So all three, the fall in consumer spending, fall in investment, production is more than the demand, are the reasons behind deflationary gap in an economy. So we are done with question number 2 as well. Again, if you haven't gotten over it, then do let me know in the comment section, because there is asymmetric information here, right? I do not know what is the level of knowledge of the people who are watching, because some of the people give me feedback that explain it too much. So that accordingly I will try to adjust my speed and everything. So do give your feedback in terms of how exactly it's going. Do I need to go not explain so much? So either way, let's get on to the third question that says that is really simple, and unfortunately I've shown the answer, but either way we are supposed to memorize this now. The question is, climate change and performance index is released by which of these agency? Very, very important. Climate change is a happening, a reality, so memorize everything about this report or performance index. So definitely options are Worldwide Fund for Nature, second is German Watch, third is Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and the last is World Meteorological Organization. So answer here is German Watch. It is not released just by German Watch, but based on these options, answer becomes German Watch. So please memorize this. Climate Change Performance Index is released by German Watch. And let's look at the few more important points now. So number 1, Climate Change Performance Index is released by German Watch, the New Climate Institute, and the Climate Action Network. And it's published annually, that is every year. Further, there are 4 parameters based on which the index is released, and these are number 1, greenhouse gas emissions, number 2, renewable energy, number 3, energy use, and the last is climate policy. Now little difficult to memorize, but then this is how it is, so let's revise it again. It's the German Watch, New Climate Institute, Climate Action Network. Further, 4 parameters are there. Number 1, greenhouse gas emissions, number 2, renewable energy, number 3, energy use, and the last is climate policy. Now although it's not important, but again UPSC can ask this as well. So the assigned value is 40% to the greenhouse gas emissions, and 20% to the renewable energy, 20% to the climate policy, and 20% to the energy use. So बाकी सबको तो 20% ही है, बस green house gas emissions को 40% है. So not that difficult to even memorize this as well, right? And the next important point is that India for the very first time has gotten rank 9. So India is among the top 10 countries now who have performed good in terms of the climate performance. So it's a good thing indeed. So please memorize, India's rank is 9th for the very first time. It has been under top 10. Now let's look at the last question. Slightly difficult, but then history is something which we just have to memorize, nothing much to be understood. So let's get on to question number 4, and that is the last one. With reference to Indian Councils Act of 1861, consider the following statements. Number 1. तो act कौन सा है? Council Act of 1861. All right. Number 1. It initiated the process of decentralization and thus reversed the centralizing tendency that started from the Regulating Act of 1773. Alright, lot of information to be processed, so pause a bit and try reading it on your own. Second is, it made the beginning of representative institutions by associating Indians as non-official members of the Viceroy's Council. Alright, let's look at the statement number 3. It introduced an open competition system of selection and recruitment of civil servants. Alright, so which of these statements are correct? 1 only, 2 only, 2 and 3 only, and 1 and 2 only. Now herein, you should be very thorough with all these acts, because they are very easy to memorize and they are static, nothing changes here. So let's get on to answer right now. So herein, yes, definitely statement number 1 is correct. There was a tendency of centralization that started with the Regulating Act of 1773. But the Indian Council Act of 1861 at least started decentralizing that entire process. And yes, statement number 2 is also correct, that because we just had our first war of independence in 1857, and after that very war we had an act onto the good governance, but that act really was not very important in terms of government or the British government getting any time to introduce any changes in the governance of India, because it was brought into immediately after the first war of independence. So this Indian Council Act of 1861 was the act wherein Britishers actually brought in certain changes, well thought out changes, and the very important one was that they thought about having some sort of say of the Indians in the administration so as to get to know of the views of the Indians. So this was indeed the beginning of a representative institutions. And how? By associating Indians as the non-official members of the Viceroy's Council. तो पहला चीज़ तो non-official रहेंगे, जो कि खुद nominate करेंगी गवर्नमेंट, उनको कुछ इलेक्शन वगैरह का चक्कर नहीं है, because it was just the beginning of giving any sort of representation to the Indians. And we'll see what sort of Indians were given the representation, but let's look at the point number 3, that this act didn't introduce any open competition system of election or recruitment of civil servants. No, we just have to memorize that it was the Charter Act of 1853 which came up with an open competition system of selection and recruitment of civil servants. अब इतना ज़्यादा खिचड़ी पकाने का ज़रूरत नहीं है कि उसमें कोविनेंट था, ये था, वो था. अभी इतना ही याद रखिएगा कि ठीक है, Charter Act of 1853 introduced open competition system of selection and recruitment of civil servants. That's it. And let's look at the other important points. This is here, that yes, Indian Council Act of 1861 provided that Viceroy should nominate. So nominate is our keyword here. They are not elected, they are just nominated, and that too by the Viceroy as the non-official members, and that's it. That's how we got 3 people for the very first time who were Indians into the legislative councils of the Viceroy. And who were these? Number 1, Raja of Banaras. Number 2, Maharaja of Patiala. And last is Sir Dinkar Rao. अब बहुत ज़्यादा किस्मत ख़राब हुआ तो नाम भी पूछ सकते हैं, so just memorize them. It's Raja of Banaras, Maharaja of Patiala, and Sir Dinkar Rao. That's it. It's the legislative council and not the executive council, and they were the non-official members and they were the nominated ones. So each and every point is important. इधर कुछ भी बदला तो सारा statement गलत हो जाएगा. And second, it initiated the process of decentralization by restoring the legislative powers to the Bombay and Madras presidencies. तो बस उनको उनका law making का power वापस कर दिया गया जो उनसे ले लिया गया था by the Regulating Act of 1773. So that's it. It was a lot of information to be processed, but then this is how it is. You can again try reading it on your own and try to internalize and memorize every point, because this is how it is. So I can't make it any more simple right now. So that's it. We are done. And again, if you haven't gotten over anything, do let me know and do give your feedback in terms of how we are going. Is the speed okay now, or do we need to go more slow, or we can be a little faster? So that's it. I really am looking forward for the feedback, and thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.